Initiating with a flexible pawn structure, this knight's deployment hints at controlling central squares and preparing for varied openings. Establishing a central pawn presence immediately challenges white's flank opening and sets the stage for a classical pawn structure. Aggressively contesting the center, white immediately challenges black's central pawn, creating dynamic imbalances from the outset. Solidifying the center, black prepares to develop pieces harmoniously and contest white's queenside space advantage. Fortifying the kingside with a fianchetto, this move subtly prepares for king's safety and aims to control the long diagonal. Developing another knight solidifies black's central influence and prepares for castling, a perfectly reasonable response to white's fianchetto. Developing the bishop to its long diagonal, preparing castling and eyeing the queenside. Securing the bishop, black prepares to castle kingside, anticipating a solid development without immediate tactical complications. Securing the monarch is paramount, especially as the center opens. Solidifying the king's safety now is paramount, preparing for a central pawn engagement. Solidifying the center, white aims to control key squares and prepare for further pawn advances. Developing this knight solidifies the pawn chain and prepares for queenside expansion, but relinquishes immediate central influence. Solidifying the center, this knight asserts its influence and prepares for a kingside pawn push. Sacrificing the pawn opens lines for development, aiming to exploit white's slightly uncoordinated pieces. Asserting central presence, white boldly advances the e-pawn, aiming to contest the space black has momentarily claimed with the pawn capture. Solidifying the queenside pawn structure and preparing to challenge the central e-pawn exchange. Expanding queenside presence asserts pressure, potentially disrupting black's pawn structure and creating attacking opportunities. Pawns advance, potentially creating a cramped position for your queenside pieces. Bringing the queen into play aims to support the central pawn advance and potentially prepare for future queenside operations. Repositioning the knight to b6 aims to free the c8 square for the bishop and potentially support a c5 pawn push, exerting pressure on white's central structure. Rethinking the approach to securing central space with the rook's repositioning. Liberating the bishop from its passive pawn shield creates immediate central pressure and dynamic counterplay. Seizing central squares with the knight, this knight boldly penetrates enemy territory, aiming to disrupt black's pawn structure and potentially threaten the bishop. Strategically solidifying the queen's position, enabling future queenside expansion and defending against aggressive knight incursions. Solidifying central control, this bishop aims to exchange black's active knight and prepare for a kingside pawn advance. Fortifying the bishop's diagonal allows it to observe the kingside while preparing for potential queenside pawn advances. Liberating the knight from its cramped position opens up the possibility of a central pawn thrust and better piece coordination. Recapturing the pawn immediately rebalances material, but it opens up the c-file and offers a strategic pawn exchange. Recapturing the pawn solidifies the center and prepares for piece centralization, though it temporarily blocks the c-file. Black boldly challenges white's queen and seeks to destabilize the queenside pawn structure. Repositioning the queen here aims to contest the central files and support a potential kingside advance. Gaining crucial queenside space while preparing to contest the b-file. Sacrificing a pawn for open lines, this capture clears the queenside and aims to exploit black's potentially exposed king. Opening the c-file offers counterplay, but a watchful eye on white's passed pawn is crucial. Opening the e-file boldly, a risky gambit for a central pawn, potentially creating weaknesses. Relocating the knight to e8 prepares to contest the d-file and avoid isolation on the queenside. Opening a central corridor, white ignites piece play and challenges black's cramped position, potentially creating weaknesses. Embracing the central pawn sacrifice offers dynamic counterplay and opens crucial diagonals for your pieces. Unlocking the queen's diagonal, this captures a central pawn and ignites the kingside for potential attacks. Reclaiming the pawn with the queen opens up the d-file, but exposes your monarch to potential tactical threats from white's active pieces. Striking at the rook's home creates immediate tactical opportunities and simplifies the position to white's advantage.